The elevator doors opened with a soft ding, and Sophia stepped out onto the 35th floor of the towering glass building. Her hands trembled as she held the folder containing little Gloria's art project, a colorful drawing of her father that the 5-year-old had forgotten at home. As the nanny for CEO Ryan Mitchell's daughter, Sophia knew she shouldn't be on the executive floor, but Gloria had been so upset about leaving her drawing behind. The hallway stretched before her, lined with expensive artwork and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of the city below. Her sneakers squeaked softly against the polished marble floor as she made her way toward Ryan's corner office. She had only met him a few times during her 6 months of working for his family, but he had always been polite, if distant. As she approached his office, she could hear his voice through the slightly open door. Something in his tone made her pause. He sounded different, stressed, almost desperate. She knew she should knock and announce herself, but something held her back. "I don't have a choice, Robert," Ryan's voice carried through the gap in the door. "The Henderson deal fell through, and without it I'll have to sell the company within the next month. Do you understand what that means?" Sophia's heart stopped. Sell the company? The same company where her mother worked in the accounting department? The same company that provided the health insurance her mother desperately needed for her cancer treatments? "Yes, I know about the employees," Ryan continued, his voice heavy with frustration. 700 people will lose their jobs, including half of the executive staff. But what choice do I have? Mitchell Industries is bleeding money, and I can't keep it afloat much longer. The folder slipped from Sophia's numb fingers, hitting the floor with a soft thud. She quickly bent to pick it up, but the damage was done. The conversation inside the office stopped abruptly. "Someone's outside," Ryan said, his voice sharp with suspicion. Sophia's mind raced. She could run, but the elevator was too far away. She could hide, but there was nowhere to go. Instead, she took a deep breath and knocked on the door, hoping her voice wouldn't betray her panic. "Mr. Mitchell? It's Sophia, Gloria's nanny. I have something for you." The silence that followed felt like an eternity. Finally, the door opened fully, revealing Ryan Mitchell in all his intimidating glory. At 32, he was younger than most CEOs, with dark hair that looked like he'd been running his fingers through it and green eyes that seemed to see right through her. His usually perfect suit was wrinkled, and his tie hung loose around his neck. "Sophia," he said, his voice carefully controlled. "What are you doing here?" "Gloria forgot her drawing," she said, holding up the folder with shaking hands. "She made it for you and she was so upset that she left it at home. I thought I could bring it up quickly." Ryan's eyes narrowed as he studied her face. "How long have you been standing outside my office?" "I just got here," she lied, hoping he couldn't hear the tremor in her voice. "I was about to knock when you opened the door." But Ryan Mitchell hadn't built a successful company by being naive. He stepped closer, and Sophia could smell his cologne, something expensive and masculine that made her heart race for entirely different reasons. "You heard the conversation," he said. It wasn't a question. Sophia's mouth went dry. She could see the calculation in his eyes, the way he was weighing his options. She thought about her mother, lying in a hospital bed just that morning, weak from her latest round of chemotherapy. She thought about the hundreds of other families who would be affected if the company really was sold. "I didn't hear anything important," she said, but even she could hear how unconvincing she sounded. Ryan studied her for a long moment, then stepped back and gestured for her to enter his office. "Come in. We need to talk." The office was massive, with a desk the size of a small car and windows that offered a panoramic view of the city. But Sophia barely noticed the luxury around her. All she could focus on was the man who held her future and her mother's in his hands. "Sit down," Ryan said, moving behind his desk. He pressed a button on his phone. "Robert, I'll call you back." Sophia perched on the edge of one of the leather chairs facing his desk, clutching Gloria's drawing like a lifeline. Ryan sat down and leaned back in his chair, his piercing gaze never leaving her face. "How much did you hear?" he asked. There was no point in lying anymore. "Everything," she whispered. Ryan closed his eyes and rubbed his temples. "Perfect. Just perfect." "I won't tell anyone," Sophia said quickly. "I swear, Mr. Mitchell. I would never." "You can't promise that," Ryan interrupted. "You heard something that could destroy me if it gets out before I'm ready to make an announcement. The stock would crash, investors would panic, and I'd lose any chance of finding an alternative solution." Sophia's heart pounded as she realized the gravity of the situation. "What are you going to do?" Ryan was quiet for a long time, staring out the window at the city below. When he finally spoke, his voice was so low she had to strain to hear him. "I should fire you. It would be the smart thing to do, eliminate the risk entirely." Please, Sophia said, her voice breaking. I need this job. My mother is sick and the insurance. I know about your mother, Ryan said, surprising her. I know about all my employees' families. It's part of what makes this so difficult. He turned back to face her, and for a moment she saw something vulnerable in his expression. But it was gone so quickly she wondered if she had imagined it. There might be another way, he said slowly. But you're not going to like it. What do you mean? Ryan stood up and walked to the window, his hands clasped behind his back. I have one more chance to save this company. There's a potential investor, James Wellington, who's considering a partnership instead of a buyout. But he's old-fashioned, traditional. He believes in family values and stability. I don't understand what this has to do with me. Ryan turned around, and the look in his eyes made her stomach flip. He's coming to the company gala next week. It's my last chance to convince him to invest instead of letting the company be sold to my competitors. Okay, Sophia said carefully. The problem is, Wellington has made it clear that he doesn't trust young, single CEOs. He thinks they're too reckless, too focused on their careers to make sound long-term decisions. Sophia's eyes widened as she began to understand where this was going. You want me to pretend to be your girlfriend, she said. Just for one night, Ryan said quickly. At the gala. Wellington needs to see me as a stable, committed man who's thinking about the future. If he believes I'm in a serious relationship, it might be enough to convince him to sign the partnership agreement. Sophia stared at him in disbelief. Are you serious? Completely. It's either this or I fire you to protect the company's interests. Your choice. The weight of the decision pressed down on her shoulders. She thought about her mother's medical bills, about the 700 families who would lose their income if the company was sold. She thought about Gloria, who would lose her father's attention entirely if he had to start over at a new company. What would I have to do, she asked. Act like you're in love with me. Convince Wellington that we're planning a future together. Make him believe that I'm the kind of man who values family and commitment. And after the gala? After the gala, we go back to our normal professional relationship. You continue taking care of Gloria and I run the company. No one ever has to know it was fake. Sophia looked down at Gloria's drawing in her hands. The little girl had drawn her father as a superhero, complete with a cape and a big smile. She had written "My daddy is the best" in crayon across the top. If I do this, Sophia said slowly, you won't sell the company? If Wellington agrees to the partnership, I won't have to sell. 700 jobs will be saved, including your mother's. It was blackmail, pure and simple. But it was also an opportunity to help save hundreds of families from financial ruin. Sophia took a deep breath and made her decision. Okay, she said. I'll do it. Ryan's relief was visible, but he quickly masked it with his usual professional demeanor. Good. We'll need to prepare carefully. Wellington can't suspect that this is anything but genuine. How do we do that? We start spending time together. Getting to know each other. By the time of the gala, we need to be convincing as a couple who's been together for months. Sophia's head spun at the implications. Spending time with Ryan Mitchell, one of the city's most eligible bachelors and her employer. Acting like she was in love with him when she barely knew him beyond their brief professional interactions. There's one more thing, Ryan said, his voice softer now. This has to stay between us. No one can know the truth, not your friends, not Gloria, not even your mother. If this gets out, it won't just destroy the company. It could destroy both of our reputations. Sophia nodded, understanding the weight of the secret she was about to carry. I understand. Good. Ryan moved back to his desk and pulled out a business card. This is my personal number. I'll pick you up tomorrow at 7 for dinner. We need to start getting to know each other if we're going to pull this off. As Sophia took the card, their fingers brushed, and she felt a jolt of electricity run up her arm. She looked up to see if Ryan had felt it too, but his expression remained carefully neutral. I should go, she said, standing up. Gloria will be wondering where her drawing is. Sophia, Ryan called as she reached the door. She turned back to find him watching her with an unreadable expression. Thank you. I know this isn't what you signed up for when you took the job. No, she agreed. It's not. As she walked back to the elevator, Gloria's drawing clutched in her trembling hands, Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that she had just agreed to something that would change her life forever. She just wasn't sure if it would be for better or worse. The elevator doors closed behind her, and she caught her reflection in the polished metal. The young woman staring back at her looked scared and uncertain, but there was something else there too, a spark of excitement that she didn't want to admit to herself. Tomorrow night, she would have dinner with Ryan Mitchell. And in 1 week she would walk into the most exclusive event in the city on his arm, pretending to be in love with him. What could possibly go wrong? Sophia stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, trying to calm her racing heart. It had been 24 hours since her life had turned upside down, and she still couldn't quite believe what she had agreed to do. In 3 hours, Ryan Mitchell would pick her up for dinner, and she had no idea what to expect. She had spent the entire day taking care of Gloria, trying to act normal while her mind raced with questions and doubts. The little girl had been delighted to get her drawing back, hanging it proudly on the refrigerator in their penthouse apartment. If only Gloria knew that her nanny was about to embark on the most complicated deception of her life. "Sophia, are you okay?" Gloria asked from the doorway, her big brown eyes full of concern. "You seem sad today." Sophia forced a smile and knelt down to Gloria's level. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Just thinking about grown-up things." "Is it about my daddy?" He seemed sad too when he came home for lunch. The fact that Ryan had come home for lunch was unusual. In the 6 months Sophia had worked for the family, he rarely left the office during the day. She wondered if he was having second thoughts about their arrangement. "Your daddy has a lot of important work to do," Sophia said carefully. "But he loves you very much, and that's what matters most." Gloria nodded solemnly, then brightened. "Will you read me a story before bed?" "Of course. But first let's get you some dinner." As they made their way to the kitchen, Sophia tried to push down her nervousness. She had chosen her outfit carefully, a simple black dress that was nice enough for dinner but not too fancy. She didn't want to look like she was trying too hard, but she also didn't want to embarrass Ryan if they went somewhere upscale. The penthouse apartment was beautiful, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a stunning view of the city. But it had always felt more like a museum than a home. Everything was perfectly arranged and spotlessly clean, more suited to magazine photo shoots than family life. The only signs that a child lived there were Gloria's toys, which were always neatly organized in designated areas. As Sophia prepared Gloria's dinner, she found herself wondering about Ryan's personal life. She knew he had been married before Gloria's mother had died in a car accident 3 years ago, but beyond that, he remained a mystery. He worked long hours, came home exhausted, and rarely talked about anything outside of business or Gloria's needs. What would it be like to date someone like him? The thought made her stomach flutter with nerves and something else she didn't want to examine too closely. At exactly 7 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Sophia had just finished reading Gloria her bedtime story, and the little girl was already half asleep. "That's probably Mrs. Chun," Sophia whispered, referring to the elderly woman who would be watching Gloria for the evening. "I'll be back later, okay?" "Okay," Gloria mumbled sleepily. "Have fun with your grown-up dinner." If only she knew, Sophia thought as she made her way to the front door. She opened it expecting to see Mrs. Chen, but instead found Ryan standing in the hallway, looking devastatingly handsome in a dark suit and tie. "You're early," she said, her voice coming out slightly breathless. "I wanted to talk to you before we left," he said. "May I come in?" Sophia stepped aside to let him enter, acutely aware of how different he looked in the domestic setting of his own home. Here, surrounded by family photos and Gloria's artwork, he seemed less like the intimidating CEO and more like, just a man. "Mrs. Chen will be here in a few minutes," Sophia said. "Gloria's already in bed." "Good." Ryan ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she was beginning to recognize as a sign of his nervousness. "We need to establish some ground rules before we do this." "What kind of ground rules?" "First, we need to agree on our story. How we met, how long we've been together, what our relationship is like. Wellington is going to ask questions and our answers need to match." Sophia nodded. "That makes sense." "Second, we need to be comfortable with physical contact. Holding hands, dancing, sitting close together. It has to look natural." The thought of holding Ryan's hand made Sophia's pulse quicken, but she tried to keep her expression neutral. "Okay." "And third," Ryan continued, his voice becoming more serious, "we need to remember that this is just business. When the gala is over, we go back to our normal relationship. No complications, no awkwardness. Can you handle that?" The question stung more than it should have. "Of course I can handle it. I'm a professional." "Good." Ryan seemed to relax slightly. "I've made reservations at Antonio's. It's quiet and we'll be able to talk without being overheard." The doorbell rang again, and this time it was Mrs. Chen. After brief introductions and instructions about Gloria's bedtime routine, Ryan and Sophia made their way down to the parking garage. Ryan's car was exactly what she would have expected, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than she made in 2 years. He held the door open for her, and she tried not to notice the way his cologne filled the small space when he got in beside her. Antonio's turned out to be an intimate Italian restaurant tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. The lighting was dim, the tables were small, and the atmosphere was decidedly romantic. Sophia couldn't help but wonder if Ryan had chosen it deliberately or if this was just where he always took women. They were seated at a corner table, and Ryan ordered a bottle of wine without consulting the menu. The server seemed to know him, which suggested he was a regular customer. "So," Ryan said once they were alone, "let's start with the basics. How did we meet?" Sophia took a sip of wine, trying to calm her nerves. "Well, I am your daughter's nanny. That's how we actually met. But we can't tell Wellington that. He'd see it as inappropriate, the boss taking advantage of his employee. So what's our story?" Ryan thought for a moment. "We met at a coffee shop. You were reading a book, I was having a meeting that got cancelled, and I asked if I could share your table. What book was I reading? Something classic. Pride and Prejudice, maybe?" Sophia couldn't help but smile. "How did you know that's one of my favorite books?" "Lucky guess." Ryan's expression softened slightly. "What happened next?" "You started talking to me about the book and we ended up having coffee for 2 hours. You asked for my number and we went on our first date the following weekend." "Where did we go on our first date?" "The art museum," Sophia said without thinking. "You wanted to impress me with your cultural knowledge, but it turned out I knew more about the paintings than you did." Ryan laughed, and the sound transformed his entire face. "I like that. It sounds believable." They spent the next hour creating their fictional relationship, filling in details about their favorite restaurants, their first kiss, their shared interests. With each story they invented, Sophia found herself wondering what it would be like if it were all real. "How long have we been together?" Ryan asked as their entrees arrived. 4 months, Sophia said. "Long enough to be serious, but not so long that people would wonder why they haven't met me before. And we're talking about moving in together." "Are we?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. Ryan paused with his fork halfway to his mouth. "For the story, yes. Wellington needs to believe we're serious about a future together." "Of course. The story." Sophia felt foolish for the flutter of excitement that had run through her at the thought of living with Ryan. "Tell me about your family," Ryan said, changing the subject. "I know about your mother's illness, but what else should I know?" Sophia hesitated. They were moving into personal territory now, and she wasn't sure how much she wanted to share. But if they were going to convince Wellington they were in love, Ryan needed to know the real her. "It's just me and my mom," she said finally. "My dad left when I was 10. Mom worked 2 jobs to support us and she never remarried. She's the strongest person I know." "Is that why you became a nanny? To help support her?" "Partly. But I also love working with children. I was studying to be a teacher before." She trailed off, not wanting to finish the sentence. "Before your mother got sick and you had to quit school to work full-time." Sophia looked up in surprise. "How did you know that?" "I told you, I know about my employees' families. I also know you're planning to go back to school once your mother's treatment is finished." The fact that he had paid attention to her life outside of work touched her more than she expected. "Yes, I am." "What do you want to teach?" "Elementary school. 2nd or 3rd grade, probably. I love that age. They're old enough to have real conversations, but they still believe in magic." Ryan smiled. "Like Gloria." "Exactly like Gloria. She's an amazing little girl, Ryan. You should be proud." "I am." His expression grew serious. "She's the most important thing in my life. Everything I do is for her." "Including this fake relationship?" "Especially this fake relationship. If the company fails, I lose everything. Gloria's trust fund, her college savings, her security. I can't let that happen." Sophia could see the weight of responsibility in his eyes, and she understood why he had been so desperate to find a solution. "Tell me about her mother." Ryan's face closed off immediately. "What about her? If we're supposedly in a serious relationship, shouldn't I know about your late wife? People will expect me to be sensitive about it." Ryan was quiet for a long moment, staring into his wine glass. "Her name was Jennifer. We met in college, got married young. She was everything I wasn't. Warm, spontaneous, full of life. She made me laugh." "You still miss her?" "Every day. But especially for Gloria's sake. A little girl needs her mother. You're doing a good job raising her on your own." "Am I?" "Sometimes I feel like I'm failing her. I work too much, I don't know how to braid her hair, and I can't sing lullabies the way Jennifer did." Sophia's heart ached for him. "Gloria adores you. And the things you can't do, those are just skills. You can learn them. Can you teach me to braid hair? The question was so unexpected that Sophia almost choked on her wine. What? Gloria's been asking me to learn, but every time I try, it ends up looking like a bird's nest. If we're going to be spending more time together over the next week, maybe you could show me. Yes, I could do that. They finished dinner talking about Gloria, and Sophia found herself seeing Ryan in a completely different light. He wasn't just the distant, intimidating CEO she had imagined. He was a single father trying to do his best for his daughter, a man carrying the weight of hundreds of employees' livelihoods on his shoulders. As they walked back to the car, Ryan surprised her by taking her hand. "We should practice," he said when she looked at him questioningly. "We need to be comfortable with this by the gala." His hand was warm and strong, and Sophia tried to ignore the way her heart sped up at the contact. "It's just practice," she reminded herself. "Just business." But as they drove home in comfortable silence, their hands still linked across the center console, Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that she was getting in deeper than she had ever intended. "Same time tomorrow?" Ryan asked as they pulled into the parking garage. "Tomorrow? We need to spend time together every day this week. By Saturday, we need to look like a couple who's been together for months." Sophia nodded, trying to ignore the excitement that fluttered in her stomach. "What are we doing tomorrow?" "I thought we'd take Gloria to the park. As a family." The word family hit her like a physical blow. She had to remind herself that it was all pretend, that Ryan was just preparing for their performance at the gala. "That sounds nice," she managed. As they rode the elevator up to the penthouse, Sophia caught their reflection in the polished doors. They looked like a real couple coming home from a date, and for just a moment she let herself imagine what it would be like if it were true. But then the elevator doors opened and reality crashed back down on her. This was Ryan's home, not hers. Gloria was his daughter, not theirs. And in 1 week, when the gala was over, she would go back to being just the nanny. She just had to make sure she didn't forget that in the meantime. The next morning, Sophia woke up with butterflies in her stomach. She had barely slept, her mind replaying every moment of her dinner with Ryan. The way he had looked when he talked about Gloria, the warmth in his voice when he spoke about his late wife, the feel of his hand in hers as they walked to the car. She had to keep reminding herself that it was all part of the act. Ryan was a skilled businessman, and he was probably just as good at playing a role as he was at closing deals. The connection she thought she had felt was likely one-sided, a product of her own imagination and the romantic setting of the restaurant. Gloria was already awake when Sophia knocked on her bedroom door, sitting up in bed with her hair sticking up in every direction. "Good morning, sunshine," Sophia said, settling on the edge of the bed. "Did you sleep well?" "I had a dream about you and Daddy," Gloria said, rubbing her eyes. "You were both at my school play and you were holding hands." Sophia's heart skipped a beat. "That sounds like a nice dream." "It was. In the dream you were my mommy." The innocent words hit Sophia like a punch to the gut. She had always been careful to maintain boundaries with Gloria, to never let the little girl think of her as anything more than a caregiver. But now, with their fake relationship looming, those boundaries were about to become very blurred. "Gloria," Sophia said gently, "you know I'm not your mommy, right? I'm your nanny and I love you very much, but your mommy was someone very special who loved you before I ever met you." Gloria nodded solemnly. "I know. But sometimes I pretend. That's okay to pretend sometimes. But it's important to remember the difference between pretending and real life." If only she could follow her own advice, Sophia thought as she helped Gloria get ready for the day. Ryan appeared in the kitchen as they were finishing breakfast, looking impeccable in a casual button-down shirt and dark jeans. Sophia had never seen him in anything but business suits, and the more relaxed look made him seem younger, more approachable. "Ready for our family outing?" he asked, and Sophia tried not to read too much into the emphasis he placed on the word family. "Where are we going?" Gloria asked excitedly. "I thought we'd go to Central Park, maybe have a picnic lunch," Ryan said. "Would you like that?" Gloria clapped her hands in delight. "Can we go on the swings? And feed the ducks?" "We can do whatever you want, princess." As they prepared to leave, Ryan pulled Sophia aside. "I've been thinking about our story," he said quietly. "We should have some photos together. Wellington might want to see them." "Photos? On our phones. Couples always have pictures of each other. We'll take some today at the park." The thought of posing for romantic photos with Ryan made Sophia's stomach flutter, but she nodded. That makes sense. The park was beautiful, with fall leaves creating a carpet of gold and red beneath the trees. Gloria ran ahead to the playground, her excitement infectious. Ryan and Sophia followed more slowly, and Sophia was surprised when he reached for her hand. "Practice," he said when she looked at him questioningly. But as they walked hand in hand through the park watching Gloria play, it didn't feel like practice. It felt natural, comfortable, like something they had been doing for years. "She's happy," Ryan observed, watching his daughter climb across the monkey bars. "She's always happy when she's with you," Sophia said. "You should take more time off to spend with her." "I know. After the gala, after everything is settled, I want to cut back on my hours. Maybe take a real vacation." "Where would you go?" "Somewhere warm. Gloria's never seen the ocean." He paused, then added, "What about you? Where would you go on your dream vacation?" "Italy," Sophia said without hesitation. "I've always wanted to see the art in Florence, walk through the streets of Rome. Maybe someday you will." They spent the afternoon taking turns pushing Gloria on the swings, feeding ducks by the pond, and playing hide and seek among the trees. Ryan was different here, away from the office. He laughed more, smiled more, seemed to actually relax for the first time since Sophia had known him. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, Ryan suggested they take some photos. They started with innocent shots, the three of them together, Gloria on Ryan's shoulders, candid moments of them laughing at something Gloria had said. But then Ryan asked a passing jogger to take a photo of just the two of them, and suddenly the atmosphere changed. He pulled Sophia close, his arm around her waist, and she found herself pressed against his side. She could feel the warmth of his body, smell his cologne, feel his breath against her hair as he leaned down to whisper something that would make her smile for the camera. "Perfect," the jogger said, handing back Ryan's phone. "You two make a beautiful couple." "Thank you," Ryan said, not correcting the assumption. As they walked back to the car, Gloria skipping ahead of them, Ryan showed Sophia the photos on his phone. They did look like a real couple, she had to admit. Her smile was genuine, her body language relaxed. If she didn't know better, she would have believed they were actually in love. "These are good," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Very convincing." "Yes, they are." Something in his tone made her look up at him, but his expression was carefully neutral. That evening, after Gloria was in bed, Ryan surprised Sophia by staying home instead of returning to the office. "Don't you have work to do?" she asked as he settled on the couch with his laptop. "I'm working from home tonight. I thought you could show me how to braid hair." Sophia laughed. "You're serious about that?" "Completely. Gloria asked me again this morning and I promised her I'd learn." So Sophia found herself sitting behind Ryan on the couch, running her fingers through his dark hair as she demonstrated the basic technique. His hair was softer than she had expected, and she tried to ignore the way he relaxed under her touch. "Like this?" she said, guiding his hands through the motions. "Over, under, pull tight. It's really just a matter of practice." "I think I need a lot of practice," Ryan said ruefully, looking at his clumsy attempt. "Everyone does it first. Here, let me show you again." As she worked, explaining the technique, Sophia became aware of how close they were sitting. Ryan's back was pressed against her legs, and every time he turned to ask a question, their faces were only inches apart. "I think I'm getting it," he said after his fifth attempt, and this time the braid actually looked like a braid. "You are. Gloria's going to be so excited. Thank you for teaching me. I know this isn't part of your job description." "I don't mind. I like helping." Ryan turned to face her fully, and suddenly the air between them seemed charged with electricity. "Sophia, I want you to know that I appreciate everything you're doing. Not just the gala, but everything. The way you take care of Gloria, the way you've made our house feel like a home." "It is a home," Sophia said softly. "You and Gloria, you're a family. But it's better when you're here." The words hung in the air between them, and Sophia felt her heart start to race. This was dangerous territory, the kind of conversation that could complicate everything. "Ryan," she started, but he held up a hand. I know this is all pretend, and I know we agreed to keep things professional. But I needed you to know that you matter to us. To Gloria and to me." Before Sophia could respond, he stood up abruptly. "I should let you get some rest. Tomorrow we're going shopping." "Shopping?" "For your dress for the gala. And everything else you'll need. If you're going to be my date, you need to look the part." The spell was broken, and Sophia felt the familiar sting of being reminded that this was all business. "Of course. What time?" "I'll pick you up at 10. Gloria will be at school." After Ryan left for his office, Sophia sat alone on the couch, touching her lips unconsciously. For just a moment she had thought he was going to kiss her. And the terrifying part was that she had wanted him to. She was in trouble. Big trouble. The week had passed in a blur of preparation. Sophia had spent Tuesday shopping with Ryan, visiting exclusive boutiques she had never dreamed of entering. He had insisted on buying her everything: a stunning navy blue gown that hugged her curves perfectly, matching shoes that probably cost more than her monthly salary, jewelry that sparkled like stars. She had protested at first, uncomfortable with accepting such expensive gifts, but Ryan had been firm. "Wellington needs to see you as the kind of woman who belongs in my world," he had said. "That means looking the part." The shopping trip had been both wonderful and torturous. Ryan had sat patiently as she tried on dress after dress, his eyes never leaving her as she emerged from the fitting room. When she had finally found the perfect gown, the look in his eyes had made her heart race. "Beautiful," he had said simply, and she had almost believed he meant it. The rest of the week had been filled with etiquette lessons, dance practice, and more elaborate backstory construction. They had practiced their couple act until it felt natural: the way Ryan's hand rested on the small of her back when they walked, the way Sophia leaned into him when they sat together, the casual touches and shared glances that spoke of intimacy. By Friday night, as Sophia prepared for the gala, she could almost forget it was all pretend. She stood in front of her bedroom mirror, hardly recognizing herself. The navy gown transformed her completely, making her look elegant and sophisticated. Her hair was styled in an elaborate updo, with a few curls framing her face. The diamond earrings Ryan had bought her caught the light as she moved. She looked like she belonged in Ryan's world. The question was whether she could act like it. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. Gloria peeked around the door, her eyes widening in amazement. "Sophia, you look like a princess." "Thank you, sweetheart. You're supposed to be asleep." "I know, but I wanted to see you before you left." Gloria came fully into the room, staring at Sophia with wonder. "Are you really going to dance with my daddy?" "I am." "Will you take pictures?" "I want to see." "Of course we will." Gloria was quiet for a moment, then said, "I hope you have fun at the grown-up party." "I hope so too." The little girl hugged her carefully, mindful of the dress, then scampered back to her room. Sophia took one last look in the mirror, grabbed her purse, and made her way to the living room where Ryan was waiting. He was adjusting his cufflinks when she entered, and when he looked up, his expression made her breath catch. He was stunning in his black tuxedo, looking every inch the successful businessman he was. But it was the way he was looking at her that made her knees weak. "You look..." He started, then stopped, seeming to struggle for words. "You look incredible." "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." He moved toward her, pulling a small box from his pocket. "One more thing," he said, opening it to reveal a delicate diamond bracelet. "Ryan, I can't accept this. You've already bought me so much." "It's just for tonight," he said, fastening it around her wrist. "Consider it a prop." But the way his fingers lingered on her skin as he secured the clasp felt like anything but acting. The gala was being held at the grand ballroom of the city's most exclusive hotel. As their car pulled up to the entrance, Sophia could see photographers lined up outside, flashing cameras capturing every arrival. "Ready?" Ryan asked, offering her his arm. "No," she said honestly. "But let's do this anyway." The moment they stepped out of the car, the cameras started flashing. Ryan guided her up the red carpet with the confidence of someone who had done this 100 times before. Sophia tried to smile naturally, but she felt like everyone could see right through their act. Inside, the ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the room, and elegant flower arrangements adorned every table. The city's elite mingled in their finest attire, the air filled with the sound of polite conversation and clinking glasses. "Mitchell," a voice called, and they turned to see a distinguished older man approaching. "Good to see you, son." "James," Ryan said warmly, extending his hand. "Thank you for coming." Sophia's heart raced as she realized this was James Wellington, the investor whose opinion would determine the fate of Ryan's company. He was exactly what she had expected: tall, silver-haired, with the bearing of someone accustomed to power. "And this must be the famous Sophia I've heard so much about," Wellington said, turning his attention to her with keen eyes. "It's wonderful to meet you, Mr. Wellington," Sophia said, offering her hand with what she hoped was the right balance of confidence and warmth. "Please call me James. Ryan's told me quite a lot about you, my dear." "All good things, I hope," Sophia said, moving closer to Ryan. His arm came around her waist immediately, and she was grateful for the support. "Indeed. He says you're the woman who's made him believe in love again." Sophia felt Ryan tense beside her, but she smiled brightly. "He's made me believe in it too." "Wonderful. I was just telling my wife how refreshing it is to see a young man who understands the importance of family. In business as in life, having someone to come home to makes all the difference. I couldn't agree more, Ryan said smoothly. Sophia has changed my perspective on what's truly important. They chatted for a few more minutes before Wellington excused himself to greet other guests. As soon as he was out of earshot, Sophia let out a breath she didn't realize she had been holding. How did I do? She asked. Perfect, Ryan said, and the pride in his voice made her heart flutter. He likes you. The rest of the evening passed in a whirlwind of introductions and conversations. Ryan introduced her to business associates, board members, and potential clients. Everyone seemed charmed by her, and Sophia found herself relaxing into the role. She was actually enjoying herself when the music started and couples began moving to the dance floor. Shall we? Ryan asked, offering his hand. I should warn you, I'm not a very good dancer, Sophia said as he led her onto the floor. Just follow my lead. As the orchestra played a slow waltz, Ryan pulled her into his arms. One hand rested on her waist, the other held her hand gently. She placed her free hand on his shoulder and tried to remember the basic steps they had practiced. But dancing with Ryan in his living room had been nothing like this. Here, surrounded by the romantic atmosphere of the ballroom, with his body pressed close to hers and his eyes locked on her face, it felt intensely intimate. Relax, he murmured, his voice low enough that only she could hear. You're doing fine. As they moved together to the music, Sophia found herself getting lost in the moment. The rest of the room seemed to fade away until it was just the two of them, moving in perfect harmony. You're a good teacher, she said, looking up into his green eyes. You're a quick learner. Something in his tone made her heart race, and she found herself wondering what would happen if she just let herself forget that this was all pretend. What would it be like to really be here with him, to really be the woman he loved? The song ended, and Ryan spun her out and then back into his arms with a flourish that made her laugh. Around them, other couples applauded politely. Show off, she teased. I wanted to impress you. Mission accomplished. As they made their way back to their table, Sophia caught sight of Wellington watching them with a satisfied smile. Their performance was working. So why did she suddenly wish it was real? The evening continued with dinner and speeches. Ryan gave a presentation about the company's future, speaking passionately about innovation and growth. Sophia found herself genuinely impressed by his vision and his ability to command the room. During his speech, he looked directly at her several times, and each time her heart skipped a beat. When he finished, the applause was enthusiastic and Wellington nodded approvingly. Ladies and gentlemen, Ryan said as the applause died down, I'd like to thank you all for being here tonight. This company has always been about more than just profit. It's about family, about building something lasting that we can pass on to the next generation. His eyes found Sophia's across the room. Recently, I've been reminded of what's truly important in life. Having someone to share your dreams with, someone who believes in you even when you don't believe in yourself. That's what makes all the hard work worthwhile. The room erupted in applause again, and several people turned to look at Sophia with knowing smiles. She felt her cheeks burn, but she managed to smile back graciously. As the evening wound down, Wellington approached their table one more time. Ryan, I have to say, this has been a wonderful evening. Your presentation was impressive, but more than that, seeing you with Sophia has convinced me that you're the right man to lead this company into the future. Does that mean? Ryan began. It means I'm prepared to move forward with our partnership agreement. My lawyers will be in touch on Monday. Relief flooded Ryan's face and he stood to shake Wellington's hand. Thank you, James. You won't regret this. I'm sure I won't. Take care of this lovely lady, son. She's a keeper. As Wellington walked away, Ryan turned to Sophia with a look of pure joy on his face. Without thinking, he pulled her into his arms and spun her around, both of them laughing with relief and excitement. When he set her down, they were standing very close, and the laughter died as they looked into each other's eyes. For a moment, Sophia thought he was going to kiss her, and she realized she wanted him to more than she had ever wanted anything. But then he stepped back, the spell broken. We did it, he said, his voice slightly breathless. We actually did it. Yes, Sophia said, trying to hide her disappointment. We did. As they gathered their things to leave, Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed between them tonight. The way Ryan had looked at her during his speech, the way he had held her while they danced, the moment they had shared after Wellington's announcement, it had all felt real. But as they rode home in comfortable silence, she reminded herself that Ryan was an excellent actor. He had fooled an entire room full of people tonight, including a shrewd businessman like Wellington. The question was, had he fooled her too? The car ride home was filled with an electric tension that neither Ryan nor Sophia seemed willing to acknowledge. Every time their eyes met in the reflection of the window, Sophia felt her heart skip a beat. The gala had been a success. Wellington was convinced, the partnership was secured, and hundreds of jobs were saved. So why did she feel like something was just beginning instead of ending? Gloria's probably asleep, Ryan said as they pulled into the parking garage, breaking the silence that had stretched between them. Mrs. Chun said she'd wait up to hear how everything went, Sophia replied, smoothing her dress nervously. They rode the elevator up in silence, both lost in their own thoughts. When the doors opened, they could hear the soft murmur of the television from the living room. Mrs. Chun looked up as they entered, her weathered face breaking into a warm smile. How did it go? You both look wonderful. It went perfectly, Ryan said, helping Sophia out of her wrap. The partnership is secured. Oh, that's wonderful news. Gloria will be so happy to hear her father's company is safe. Mrs. Chin gathered her purse and coat. She was an angel tonight. Went to bed without any fuss, though she did ask me 3 times if you would wake her up to tell her about the party. After Mrs. Chin left, Ryan and Sophia found themselves alone in the dimly lit living room. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken words and unacknowledged feelings. I should change, Sophia said finally, gesturing to her gown. Return all of this to you. Keep it, Ryan said quickly. The dress, the jewelry, all of it. You earned it tonight. Ryan, I can't. Please. I want you to have them. Something in his tone made her look at him more closely. He had loosened his bow tie and unbuttoned his collar, making him look younger and more vulnerable than she had ever seen him. Are you okay? She asked. Ryan ran a hand through his hair, messing up the perfect style. I keep thinking about what Wellington said. About having someone to come home to, about family being the most important thing. He was right. Gloria needs you. I wasn't thinking about Gloria. The words came out quietly, but they hit Sophia like a physical blow. Right. I know what we agreed, he said, moving closer to her. I know this was all supposed to be pretend, just business. But tonight, when we were dancing, when I was holding you... He trailed off, shaking his head. I can't stop thinking about what it would be like if it were real. Sophia's heart hammered against her ribs. You don't mean that. It's just the adrenaline from tonight, the relief that everything worked out. Is it? Or is it the fact that I've been falling for you all week and I've been too scared to admit it? The confession hung in the air between them, and Sophia felt the ground shift beneath her feet. This couldn't be happening. Ryan Mitchell, the brilliant CEO, the devoted father, the most eligible bachelor in the city, he couldn't be falling for his daughter's nanny. You don't know what you're saying, she whispered. I know exactly what I'm saying. He reached out to touch her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. I'm saying that pretending to be in love with you was the easiest thing I've ever done because I didn't have to pretend at all. Before Sophia could respond, before she could think of all the reasons this was impossible, Ryan leaned down and kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative, as if he was giving her a chance to pull away. But when she melted into him instead, when her arms came up to circle his neck, the kiss deepened into something desperate and hungry. All week, they had been building toward this moment through shared glances and careful touches. Now, with no audience to perform for, the pretense fell away completely. This was real, the way her heart raced, the way her knees went weak, the way she felt like she was coming alive for the first time in her life. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Ryan rested his forehead against hers. Tell me you feel it too, he whispered. Tell me I'm not imagining this connection between us. I feel it, Sophia admitted, her voice barely audible. I felt it all week. But Ryan, this is crazy. I work for you. Gloria is your daughter and I'm her nanny. This could complicate everything. Or it could make everything better. What if it doesn't work out? What if we try this and it falls apart? Gloria's already been through so much loss. I can't bear the thought of hurting her. Ryan pulled back to look at her, his hands still framing her face. Do you think I would risk my daughter's happiness for anything less than something real? Something lasting? How can you know it's lasting? We barely know each other outside of this week of pretending. Then let's find out. No more pretending, no more acting. Just us getting to know each other as we really are. Sophia wanted to say yes more than she had ever wanted anything. But the rational part of her brain was screaming warnings. She was Gloria's nanny and employee. Ryan was her boss, a billionaire CEO who lived in a different world entirely. I need time to think, she said finally. Ryan nodded, though she could see the disappointment in his eyes. Of course. I'm sorry if I pushed too hard. It's just, tonight was perfect, Sophia. Not just the business part but being with you, dancing with you, feeling like we were a real couple. It was perfect, she agreed. That's what scares me. Ryan stepped back, giving her space. I should let you get some rest. But Sophia? Whatever you decide, tonight meant something to me. You mean something to me. After he left for his home office, Sophia stood alone in the living room, her fingers touching her lips where he had kissed her. Everything had changed in the span of a few minutes. The careful boundaries she had maintained, the professional distance she had insisted upon, all of it had crumbled with one kiss. She made her way to her room, carefully hanging up the beautiful gown and removing the jewelry. As she changed into her pajamas and washed off her makeup, she tried to think rationally about the situation. Ryan was right that there was something real between them. The connection she had felt all week wasn't just her imagination, he had felt it too. But was that enough to risk everything? If they tried a real relationship and it didn't work out, she would lose more than just her job. She would lose Gloria, who had become like a daughter to her. She would lose the family she had never had, the sense of belonging she had found in their home. But if they didn't try, if she walked away from what might be the love of her life out of fear, would she regret it forever? As she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Sophia's mind raced with possibilities and fears. Through the thin walls, she could hear Ryan moving around in his office, probably unable to sleep as well. Tomorrow she would have to face Gloria and act normal while her entire world had been turned upside down. She would have to look at Ryan and figure out what to say, how to handle this new dynamic between them. But tonight, she allowed herself to remember the way it felt to be in his arms, the way he had looked at her like she was the most beautiful woman in the world, the way her heart had soared when he said he was falling for her. Maybe some risks were worth taking. Maybe some connections were too strong to ignore. The question was whether she was brave enough to find out. The next morning, Sophia woke up to the sound of Gloria's laughter coming from the kitchen. For a moment, she lay in bed listening to the sweet sound, trying to gather the courage to face the day. Everything had changed last night, but Gloria's world was still the same, and Sophia was determined to keep it that way. She dressed carefully in her usual jeans and sweater, trying to look as normal as possible. But when she caught sight of herself in the mirror, she could see that she looked different. There was something in her eyes, a new awareness that hadn't been there before. When she entered the kitchen, she found Ryan sitting at the breakfast table with Gloria, both of them still in their pajamas. Ryan was attempting to braid Gloria's hair, his tongue sticking out slightly in concentration. "Look, Sophia," Gloria called excitedly. "Daddy learned how to braid. It's not perfect, but it's really good." "It's beautiful," Sophia said, and she meant it. The braid was a little lopsided, but the love and effort that had gone into it made it perfect. Ryan looked up at her, and their eyes met across the kitchen. The memory of their kiss hung between them, but he gave her a small, careful smile that didn't pressure her for anything more than she was ready to give. "Coffee?" he offered, already reaching for a mug. "Please." As he handed her the coffee, their fingers brushed, and Sophia felt that familiar jolt of electricity. But this time, instead of pretending it didn't happen, Ryan's eyes acknowledged it, and she saw her own feelings reflected back at her. "I'm making pancakes," Gloria announced. "Well, Daddy's making them, but I'm helping. Want some?" "That sounds wonderful." They fell into an easy rhythm, the three of them working together to prepare breakfast. It felt natural, domestic, like a real family on a Sunday morning. Sophia found herself wondering if this was what Ryan had meant when he talked about making everything better instead of more complicated. But she also noticed the way Gloria looked at them, her young eyes picking up on the subtle changes in their dynamic. Children were more perceptive than adults often gave them credit for, and Gloria had already been through the loss of one mother figure. After breakfast, Ryan surprised them both by suggesting a trip to the zoo. "Don't you have work to do?" Sophia asked. "The partnership with Wellington is secure, thanks to you. I think I can take one day off to spend with my two favorite girls." The casual way he included her in that statement made Sophia's heart flutter, but she also saw Gloria's face light up with pure joy at the prospect of having her father's undivided attention for an entire day. The zoo was crowded with families enjoying the mild autumn weather. Gloria ran from exhibit to exhibit, her excitement infectious as she pointed out every animal and insisted on reading all the information plaques aloud. As they walked through the park, Ryan and Sophia naturally fell into their practiced rhythm of holding hands and walking close together. But now it felt different, not like acting but like a natural extension of their real feelings. "Daddy, can you and Sophia take a picture by the elephants?" Gloria asked, pulling out the child-sized camera Ryan had bought her for her birthday. Of course, princess. As they posed for Gloria's photo, Ryan's arm around Sophia's waist, she realized that this was what she wanted, not just the passion and excitement of last night, but this everyday intimacy, this sense of being part of a family. Beautiful, Gloria declared, showing them the slightly blurry photo on the camera's screen. You both look so happy. We are happy, Ryan said, his eyes never leaving Sophia's face. As the day progressed, Sophia found herself relaxing into the possibility of a real relationship with Ryan. He was different away from the office, more playful, more present, more like the man she had glimpsed during their week of preparation. When Gloria ran ahead to look at the penguins, Ryan caught Sophia's hand and pulled her aside. I know you said you needed time to think, he said quietly, but I have to ask, is this what you were afraid of? This feeling of rightness, of belonging together? No, Sophia said honestly. This is what I was hoping for. That's what makes it so scary. What if we took it slow? No pressure, no rush. Just see where it goes. And Gloria? Gloria adores you. She's been asking me for months when you're going to become part of our family permanently. She has. So maybe the question isn't whether this is right for Gloria, but whether you're ready to take the risk of finding out if it's right for us. Before Sophia could answer, Gloria came running back, chattering excitedly about the penguin feeding she had just witnessed. But as they continued through the zoo, Sophia found herself watching Ryan with Gloria, seeing the love and devotion in every interaction. This was a man who would do anything for his daughter, who had risked everything to save his company, not for his own sake, but to secure Gloria's future. If he was willing to risk his daughter's emotional well-being by pursuing a relationship with Sophia, it meant he truly believed it could work. As they headed home in the late afternoon, Gloria fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from their day of adventure. Ryan and Sophia drove in comfortable silence, both lost in their own thoughts. Ryan, Sophia said finally, about last night? You don't have to decide anything right now, he interrupted gently. I meant what I said about taking it slow. I want to try, she said quietly. I want to see where this goes. Ryan pulled the car over to the side of the road and put it in park. He turned to face her, his eyes searching her face. Are you sure? I'm terrified, she admitted. But I'm more afraid of wondering, what if, for the rest of my life, than I am of taking this chance. Ryan reached over and took her hand, bringing it to his lips to press a soft kiss to her palm. We'll figure it out together. All of it. What do we tell Gloria? The truth. That sometimes adults who care about each other decide to spend more time together and see if they want to be a family. And if it doesn't work out? Then we'll handle that too. But Sophia, I need you to know I'm not going into this thinking it won't work out. I'm going into this believing that you might be the best thing that's ever happened to me and Gloria. As they drove home with Gloria still sleeping peacefully in the back seat, Sophia felt a sense of rightness settle over her. This was her family now, not because of a fake relationship or a business arrangement, but because they had chosen each other. The road ahead was uncertain, and there would undoubtedly be challenges to face. But for the first time in her life, Sophia felt like she was exactly where she belonged. When they arrived home, Ryan carried Gloria up to her room while Sophia started dinner. As she moved around the kitchen, she realized that nothing had really changed. She was still taking care of Gloria, still managing the household, still being part of their daily routine. But everything had changed too. Now she was doing it as someone who was loved, someone who belonged, someone who was building a future instead of just marking time. When Ryan came back downstairs, he found her at the stove, humming softly as she cooked. He came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. This feels right, he murmured against her ear. It does, she agreed, leaning back against his chest. I love you, Sophia. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of everything they had been through together, the fake relationship that had become real, the risks they had taken, the leap of faith they were making together. I love you too, she whispered back. And in that moment, standing in the warm kitchen with the man she loved holding her close and his daughter sleeping peacefully upstairs, Sophia knew that some risks were definitely worth taking. 2 weeks had passed since the gala, and Sophia was still adjusting to the new dynamic in the Mitchell household. She and Ryan had agreed to take things slowly, but it was hard to maintain that pace when they were living in the same space and sharing the care of Gloria. They had told Gloria that they were getting to know each other better, and might become more than friends, and the little girl had accepted this news with the kind of matter-of-fact enthusiasm that only children possessed. Does this mean Sophia might stay forever? She had asked. We're going to see, Ryan had answered honestly. How would you feel about that? I would feel happy, Gloria had declared. Sophia makes the best pancakes and she knows all the good bedtime stories. If only all of life's complications could be resolved so simply, Sophia had thought. Now, on a quiet Saturday evening, Gloria was having a sleepover at her friend Madison's house, leaving Ryan and Sophia alone in the penthouse for the first time since their kiss. They had ordered Chinese food and were sitting on the couch, sharing lo mein and trying to find something to watch on television. "We could watch a movie," Ryan suggested, scrolling through the options. "Or we could talk," Sophia said. "I feel like there's still so much I don't know about you." Ryan set down the remote and turned to face her. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. What you were like as a kid, how you built your company, what your dreams are beyond just business success." Ryan smiled. "That's a tall order. Where should I start?" "Start with childhood. What were you like when you were Gloria's age?" "Serious," Ryan said without hesitation. "Too serious probably. My parents were both lawyers, very focused on achievement and success. I learned early that love was conditional, you had to earn it by being the best at everything." Sophia felt a pang of sympathy for the little boy he had been. "That sounds lonely." It was. "I threw myself into school, into building things, into proving that I was worthy of attention. By the time I was in high school, I had already started my first business, a tutoring service that I ran out of our garage." "What did your parents think of that?" "They were proud, but only because it was successful. I think if I had failed, they would have been disappointed rather than supportive." Sophia reached over and took his hand. "Is that why you're so different with Gloria? Why you love her unconditionally?" "Partly. I never want her to feel like she has to earn my love. She has it just by being herself." "And Jennifer? How did she fit into all of this?" Ryan was quiet for a long moment, and Sophia worried she had pushed too far. But then he spoke, his voice soft with memory. "Jennifer was everything I wasn't. She was spontaneous, carefree, full of laughter. She taught me that there was more to life than just achieving goals. When I was with her, I could just be myself, not the successful businessman or the dutiful son, just Ryan." "How did you meet?" "College. She was an art major and I was studying business. We met in a coffee shop. She was painting a watercolor of the view from the window, and I was so mesmerized by watching her work that I forgot about my meeting with my study group." Sophia smiled. "That sounds romantic." It was. She made me see the world differently. Before Jennifer, everything was black and white, success or failure. She showed me all the colors in between. "And when she died?" Ryan's grip on her hand tightened. "I almost lost myself. 4 months after the accident, I could barely function. If it hadn't been for Gloria needing me, I might have given up entirely. Work became my escape, my way of avoiding the pain." "Is that why you worked so much? To avoid feeling?" "Yes. But also because I felt like I owed it to Jennifer to make sure Gloria was provided for. The company was our future, our legacy. I couldn't let it fail." Sophia understood now why the threat of losing the company had been so devastating for him. It wasn't just about money or success, it was about honoring his late wife's memory and protecting their daughter. "What about you?" Ryan asked. "What were you like as a child?" "The opposite of you, probably. I was always dreaming, always making up stories and adventures. My mom used to say I lived half in the real world and half in my imagination." "And your father leaving? How did that affect you?" Sophia sighed. "It made me grow up fast. Suddenly, I couldn't just be a dreamer anymore, I had to be practical, responsible. I had to help my mom take care of things." "Is that why you never finished college? Because you felt responsible for taking care of everyone else?" "Partly. But also because my mom got sick and the medical bills were overwhelming. Someone had to work." "Do you regret it?" "Sometimes. I always thought I'd go back to school, but life kept getting in the way. And then I got the job with you, and Gloria became such a big part of my life, and school seemed less important than being here." Ryan studied her face carefully. "You could go back now, you know. If that's what you wanted. We could make it work, online classes, part-time schedules, whatever you needed." "You'd really do that?" "Sophia, I want you to be happy. If finishing your degree would make you happy, then we'll figure out how to make it happen." The generosity of the offer made her eyes water. "I don't know if I even want to anymore. Being here with you and Gloria, it feels like where I belong. But if you did want to, the option is there." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, both lost in their own thoughts. Finally, Sophia spoke again. "Can I ask you something personal?" "Haven't you been asking me personal things all evening?" Ryan teased. "This is different. More personal." "Okay. When you kiss me, when you hold me, are you thinking about Jennifer? Comparing us?" Ryan turned to face her fully, his expression serious. No. Never. Sophia, what I felt for Jennifer was real and it was beautiful, but it was also young love, first love. What I feel for you is different, deeper, more mature. It's the love of a man who knows what he wants, who's been through loss and comes out stronger. Sometimes I worry that I'm just a replacement, that you're trying to recreate what you had with her. You're not a replacement, Ryan said firmly. You're not Jennifer, and I wouldn't want you to be. You're Sophia, strong, caring, intelligent, beautiful in your own unique way. I love you for who you are, not for who you remind me of. Relief flooded through Sophia, washing away fears she hadn't even realized she'd been carrying. I needed to hear that. I should have said it sooner. I know this situation is complicated, falling in love with your employer, becoming part of a family that's still healing from loss. But Sophia, you're not an intruder here. You belong with us. Sometimes it feels too good to be true. Like I'm going to wake up and find out this was all a dream. Ryan leaned over and kissed her softly. Does that feel like a dream? No, she whispered against his lips. It feels real. It is real. We're real. As if to prove his point, Ryan pulled her closer, deepening the kiss until Sophia felt that familiar fire ignite in her veins. But this time there was no audience to perform for, no business deal riding on their chemistry. This was just them, just the love they had found in the most unexpected circumstances. When they broke apart, both breathing heavily, Ryan rested his forehead against hers. I have something to tell you, he said. Something I should have told you weeks ago. What? The night you overheard my conversation with Robert, when you brought Gloria's drawing to my office. That wasn't the first time I'd noticed you. Sophia pulled back to look at him. What do you mean? I'd been watching you with Gloria for months. The way you lit up when she laughed, the way you made our house feel like a home, the way you cared for her like she was your own daughter. I was already falling for you long before I asked you to pretend to be my girlfriend. You were? I was. But I told myself it was inappropriate, that you were my employee and Gloria's caregiver, that I had no right to complicate your life with my feelings. So when you asked me to fake the relationship, it was partially about the business deal, yes. But it was also my excuse to spend time with you, to see if what I was feeling was real. Sophia stared at him in amazement. You mean this whole thing was orchestrated? No. The business crisis was real, Wellington's expectations were real, and I genuinely needed to convince him I was stable and committed. But when I was looking for a solution, when I was trying to figure out how to present myself as a family man, you were the only woman I could imagine by my side. Ryan Mitchell, you are full of surprises. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Definitely good. Although it means I've been agonizing over whether my feelings were appropriate when you were feeling the same thing all along. We're both overthinkers, Ryan said with a laugh. Maybe that's why we work so well together. They spent the rest of the evening talking, sharing stories from their pasts, their hopes for the future, their fears and dreams. As the night grew later, they moved closer together on the couch until Sophia was curled up against Ryan's side, her head on his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. What happens now? She asked sleepily. Now we take it one day at a time. We figure out how to blend our lives together, how to be a family. What about work? I'm still technically your employee. We'll figure that out too. Maybe you could take a different role in the company, something that doesn't create a conflict of interest. Like what? You're great with people, you have good instincts about business. Maybe you could work in our community outreach program, or help with client relations. The idea of having a real career, of being more than just a nanny was appealing. But Sophia realized that what mattered most wasn't what job she had, but that she was building a life with Ryan and Gloria. I'd like that, she said. But I also want to keep being part of Gloria's life. Not as her nanny but as her soon-to-be stepmother? Ryan suggested quietly. The word sent a thrill through Sophia's entire body. Is that what you want? It's what I want more than anything. But only if it's what you want too. It is, she said without hesitation. It's everything I want. Ryan tilted her chin up so he could look into her eyes. Then that's what we'll work toward. A real family, a real future, a real forever. As he kissed her again, Sophia marveled at how much her life had changed in such a short time. A few weeks ago she had been just a nanny, working to support her sick mother and trying not to fall for her impossible boss. Now she was planning a future with the man she loved, preparing to become a mother to the little girl who had already stolen her heart. It was scary and exciting and overwhelming all at once. But as Ryan held her close, whispering promises of tomorrow against her hair, Sophia knew that she was exactly where she belonged. Some love stories began with grand gestures and dramatic declarations. Theirs had begun with a desperate business arrangement and a fake relationship. But as Sophia was learning, the best love stories weren't about how they began, they were about how they ended. And this story was just getting started. Monday morning arrived with unexpected drama. Sophia woke up to find several missed calls on her phone, all from unknown numbers. When she checked her email, her inbox was flooded with messages from local news outlets and gossip bloggers. "Ryan," she called, hurrying to the kitchen where he was making coffee. "Something's wrong." He looked up from his phone, his expression grim. "I know. I've been getting calls since 5 a.m. What's happening?" Before Ryan could answer, Gloria came running into the kitchen, her tablet in hand. "Daddy, why are there pictures of you and Sophia on the internet?" Sophia's heart sank. She had completely forgotten about the photographers at the gala, the way they had posed for pictures on the red carpet. Of course those photos would eventually surface. Ryan took the tablet from Gloria and showed Sophia the screen. There they were, looking every inch the perfect couple as they arrived at the gala. The headline read, "Billionaire CEO's Secret Romance. Ryan Mitchell steps out with mysterious beauty." "It's not just that," Ryan said grimly, scrolling down to reveal more photos. "Someone got pictures of us at the park yesterday at the zoo. They're calling it a whirlwind romance, and speculating about our relationship." Sophia felt sick. What does this mean? It means our private life is about to become very public. The business press, the society pages, everyone's going to want to know who you are and how we met. Will they find out about the fake relationship? Not if we're careful. But Sophia, this changes things. Are you ready for this level of scrutiny? For everyone to know about us. Before Sophia could answer, Ryan's phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and frowned. "It's my publicist. I should take this." As Ryan stepped into his office to take the call, Sophia tried to process what was happening. She had known that dating Ryan would mean stepping into his world, but she hadn't considered the media attention that would come with it. "Sophia," Gloria said, tugging on her sleeve. "Are you famous now?" "I don't think so, sweetheart. People are just curious about your daddy and me." "Will they want to take pictures of me too?" The innocent question made Sophia's stomach clench. She hadn't thought about how this would affect Gloria, how the little girl might be thrust into the spotlight simply because her father was newsworthy. Ryan returned a few minutes later, his expression even more serious than before. "We need to talk," he said to Sophia. "Gloria, why don't you go get ready for school?" Once Gloria was out of earshot, Ryan sat down heavily at the kitchen table. "How bad is it?" Sophia asked. "It's complicated. The photos are everywhere, not just local papers but national outlets. My publicist says we need to get ahead of this, control the narrative before it spirals out of control." "What does that mean?" "It means we need to decide how public we want to be about our relationship. We can try to keep things private, refuse to comment, hope the interest dies down. Or we can be proactive, give an interview, tell our story on our terms." "What story?" "We can't tell them the truth about how this started." "No, but we can tell them the truth about how we feel now. We can talk about falling in love, about blending our family, about building a future together." Sophia's head was spinning. "I need some air. I need to think." "Take all the time you need. But Sophia, whatever we decide, we're in this together. I won't let the media circus hurt you or Gloria." After dropping Gloria off at school, Sophia decided to visit her mother at the rehabilitation center where she was recovering from her latest treatment. She needed the perspective of someone who had always been her anchor, her voice of reason. Her mother was sitting up in bed when Sophia arrived, looking much stronger than she had in weeks. The experimental treatment was working, and the doctors were optimistic about her prognosis. "You look troubled, sweetheart," her mother said, patting the bed beside her. "What's wrong?" Sophia pulled out her phone and showed her mother the news articles. "Remember the man I work for? Ryan Mitchell? The one with the little girl you're always talking about?" "Gloria?" "Yes. Well, it turns out he and we've fallen in love. And now it's all over the internet." Her mother studied the photos carefully, then looked at Sophia with knowing eyes. "You're glowing in these pictures. You look happy." "I'm happy. Happier than I've ever been. But Mom, this is all so complicated. The media attention, the scrutiny, what it might mean for Gloria." "Do you love him?" "Yes. More than I thought I could love anyone." "And he loves you?" "He says he does. And I believe him." "Then everything else is just noise, honey. When you find real love, you don't let it go because other people have opinions about it." "But what if I can't handle the pressure? What if I say the wrong thing and embarrass him or hurt his business?" Her mother took Sophia's hands in hers. Listen to me carefully. You are smart, kind, and strong. You've handled everything life has thrown at you with grace and dignity. You can handle this too. Are you sure? I'm sure. But more importantly, are you sure about him? About this relationship? Sophia thought about Ryan's confession the night before, about the way he looked at her, about how natural it felt to be part of his family. I'm sure about him. I'm just not sure about myself. Then let me tell you what I see. I see a man who looks at you like you hung the moon. I see a woman who's finally found where she belongs. Don't let fear rob you of your happiness, Sophia. On the drive home, Sophia thought about her mother's words. She had spent so much of her life being afraid of taking risks, afraid of wanting too much, afraid of getting hurt. But what if the biggest risk was not taking this chance at love? When she arrived back at the penthouse, she found Ryan pacing in his office, clearly agitated. "How's your mother?" he asked, immediately focusing on her despite his obvious stress. "She's doing well. Getting stronger every day. How are things here?" "Complicated. My publicist wants us to do a joint interview with Society magazine. It's a respected publication, and they're offering to do a tasteful piece about our relationship." "What would we have to talk about?" "Our story. How we met, how we fell in love, what our plans are for the future. It would give us control over the narrative instead of letting the tabloids speculate." Sophia took a deep breath. "Okay. Let's do it." Ryan stopped pacing and stared at her. "Are you sure?" "No, I'm terrified. But I'm also tired of being afraid. If we're going to be together, if we're going to build a life as a family, then we need to face this together." Relief flooded Ryan's face. "You mean that?" "I mean it. But Ryan, I need you to know I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes, say the wrong thing sometimes, probably embarrass myself. And I'll be right there beside you when you do. We'll figure it out as we go." "When do they want to do the interview?" "Tomorrow. They want to come here, photograph us in our natural environment. Show the world what our life is really like. Then we better make sure our life looks as perfect as possible." Ryan crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. "Our life doesn't need to look perfect, Sophia. It just needs to be real." As he kissed her, Sophia felt the last of her fears melt away. They were about to step into the spotlight together, to let the world see their love story. It was scary and overwhelming, but it was also exciting. Tomorrow, everyone would know that Ryan Mitchell, one of the city's most eligible bachelors, was off the market. More importantly, everyone would know that Sophia had found her place in the world, her family, her forever. She just hoped they were ready for what came next. The morning of the interview arrived with unexpected chaos. Gloria woke up with a fever, and Sophia spent the early hours alternating between taking care of the sick little girl and preparing for what felt like the most important conversation of her life. "Maybe we should postpone," Ryan said, feeling Gloria's forehead with concern. "No," Sophia said firmly. "Gloria's fever is breaking and Mrs. Chen can watch her. We need to do this today, get our story out there before someone else decides to tell it for us." The interviewer, Patricia Williams, arrived at exactly 10 a.m. with a photographer and a small crew. She was an elegant woman in her 50s with silver hair and sharp eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Mr. Mitchell, it's wonderful to finally meet you," she said, shaking Ryan's hand. "And you must be the famous Sophia who's captured America's most eligible bachelor." "I'm not sure about famous," Sophia said, trying to keep her voice steady. "But I'm definitely Sophia. Shall we start in the living room? I'd love to get some photos of you two in your natural environment before we begin the interview." The next hour was a whirlwind of posed shots and candid moments. The photographer captured them on the couch where they had shared so many conversations, in the kitchen where they made breakfast together every morning, and by the large windows that offered a view of the city below. "You're very natural together," Patricia observed as they settled in for the actual interview. "How long have you been together?" Ryan and Sophia exchanged a glance. They had rehearsed this answer, but sitting here under the scrutiny of a professional journalist, it felt more daunting than they had expected. "We've been together for about 4 months, Ryan said smoothly. "But I feel like I've known Sophia much longer than that." "And how did you meet?" "The public is fascinated by your love story. We met at a coffee shop," Sophia said, reciting the story they had created weeks earlier. "Ryan was supposed to have a business meeting that got cancelled and I was reading. He asked if he could share my table." "What were you reading?" "Pride and Prejudice. It's one of my favorites." Patricia smiled. "How romantic. And Ryan, what was it about Sophia that caught your attention?" "Everything," Ryan said, and the sincerity in his voice made Sophia's heart skip. Her intelligence, her kindness, the way she seemed completely absorbed in her book. She was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen, but it was more than that. There was something about her that made me want to know everything about her. And Sophia, what did you think of Ryan? Honestly, I thought he was way out of my league, Sophia said with a laugh. Here was this incredibly handsome, successful man wanting to talk to me about Jane Austen. I kept waiting for him to realize he was talking to the wrong person. But he didn't? No, he didn't. We ended up talking for 2 hours. By the end of that conversation, I knew my life had changed forever. Patricia leaned forward, clearly intrigued. That's quite a statement. What made you so certain? Sophia looked at Ryan, drawing strength from his encouraging smile. I'd never met anyone who made me feel so completely myself. With Ryan, I didn't have to pretend to be someone else or try to impress him. He saw me for who I really was and somehow found that worth loving. And Ryan, you were widowed 3 years ago. How has it been, opening your heart to love again? Ryan's expression grew serious. It was terrifying at first. After Jennifer died, I thought I was done with love, that I'd had my chance and lost it. But Sophia showed me that the heart has an infinite capacity for love, that loving her doesn't diminish what I felt for my late wife. How has your daughter Gloria adjusted to having Sophia in your lives? Gloria adores Sophia, Ryan said, his face lighting up. Actually, if I'm being honest, Sophia was part of our lives before she was part of my heart. Patricia raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Ryan and Sophia exchanged another look. This was dangerous territory, but they had agreed to be as honest as possible without revealing the fake relationship. Sophia was Gloria's nanny, Ryan said simply. She came to work for us about 6 months ago and she transformed our house into a home. Gloria flourished under her care, and I couldn't help but notice what an incredible woman she was. So this is a classic case of falling for the nanny? Patricia asked with a knowing smile. I prefer to think of it as falling for the woman who loved my daughter like her own, Ryan said. Sophia didn't just take care of Gloria's physical needs. She nurtured her spirit, encouraged her creativity, helped her heal from the loss of her mother. How could I not fall in love with someone who gave my daughter so much happiness? And Sophia, how did you feel when you realized your employer was developing feelings for you? This was the moment Sophia had been dreading. How could she explain the complexity of their situation without lying outright? It was complicated, she said carefully. I loved my job, I loved Gloria, and I was starting to have feelings for Ryan too. But I was also scared of disrupting the stability Gloria needed. She'd already lost one mother figure. I couldn't bear the thought of hurting her if things didn't work out. What changed your mind? Ryan did, Sophia said, looking at him with complete honesty. He showed me that sometimes the biggest risk is not taking a chance on love. He made me believe that we could be a real family, that what we felt for each other was worth fighting for. Speaking of family, are there wedding bells in your future? Ryan reached over and took Sophia's hand. We're taking things one day at a time, but yes, I hope so. I can't imagine my future without Sophia in it. And children? Would you like to have more children together? Sophia felt her cheeks warm. We've talked about it. I'd love to give Gloria a little brother or sister someday. But right now, we're focused on building our foundation as a family. What would you say to people who might be critical of your relationship? Some might see it as inappropriate for a boss to become involved with his employee. I'd say they don't know us, Ryan said firmly. They don't know how hard we tried to maintain professional boundaries, how much we agonized over whether we were doing the right thing. Love doesn't follow rules or timelines. It happens when it happens, and you can either embrace it or let it slip away. Any regrets? Only that it took us so long to admit how we felt, Sophia said. We wasted months dancing around our feelings when we could have been building our life together. As the interview concluded, Patricia smiled warmly at both of them. I have to say, you two are quite refreshing. In a world of calculated relationships and strategic marriages, it's nice to see real love. After the crew packed up and left, Ryan and Sophia collapsed on the couch, emotionally exhausted. How do you think we did? Sophia asked. I think we told our truth, Ryan said. Maybe not the whole truth, but our truth. The truth about how we feel now, about what we want for our future. I'm proud of us. We didn't lie exactly. We just emphasized the parts of our story that matter most. The fake beginning doesn't matter anymore, Ryan agreed. What matters is the real love we found along the way. Gloria appeared in the doorway, looking much better after her nap. Are the camera people gone? They're gone, Sophia confirmed, opening her arms for a hug. Did you tell them that I helped Daddy learn to braid hair? Gloria asked as she cuddled between them. We should have. Ryan said with a laugh. That's definitely part of our story. As they sat together on the couch, the three of them forming a perfect picture of family contentment, Sophia realized that they had survived their first real test as a couple. Tomorrow their story would be in magazines across the country, but tonight, they were just a family enjoying a quiet evening together. The truth was out there now, not the whole truth but the truth that mattered. They were real, their love was real, and their future together was real. Everything else was just details. 3 months later, Sophia stood in front of the mirror in what was now officially her bedroom, adjusting the simple but elegant silver dress she had chosen for tonight's company Christmas party. It was hard to believe how much her life had changed since that terrifying day when she had overheard Ryan's phone conversation. The magazine interview had been a huge success. Patricia Williams had written a beautiful piece about their love story, focusing on the theme of second chances and blended families. The public response had been overwhelmingly positive, with many readers commenting on how genuine their connection seemed. More importantly, the business world had embraced Sophia as Ryan's partner. Wellington had been particularly pleased, noting that Ryan seemed more focused and happier than he had ever seen him. The partnership between their companies was thriving, and Mitchell Industries was more successful than ever. "Sophia, you look beautiful," Gloria said from the doorway, wearing a red velvet dress that made her look like a little princess. "Thank you, sweetheart. You look pretty beautiful yourself. Daddy says tonight is special. Is it because of your new job?" Sophia smiled. 2 weeks ago, Ryan had officially offered her a position as Director of Community Relations for Mitchell Industries. It was a role that played to her strengths, working with people, building relationships, representing the company at charity events and community functions. She was no longer just Gloria's caregiver, she was Ryan's partner in every sense of the word. "It's special for lots of reasons," Sophia said, straightening Gloria's collar. "But yes, I'm excited about my new job. Will you still help me with my homework?" "Of course I will. That's never going to change." Ryan appeared in the doorway, looking devastatingly handsome in his black tuxedo. "Are my two favorite ladies ready for the party?" "We're ready," Sophia said, but as she moved toward him, he held up a hand. "Actually, there's something I want to give you first." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket, and Sophia's heart stopped. "Ryan, what are you doing?" "Something I should have done weeks ago." He dropped to one knee and Gloria clapped her hands excitedly. "Sophia Martinez," Ryan said, his voice thick with emotion, "you came into our lives when we needed you most. You healed our hearts, made our house a home, and showed us what real love looks like. I can't imagine spending another day without you as my partner, my best friend, my wife." He opened the box to reveal a stunning diamond ring that caught the light and sent rainbows dancing across the walls. "Will you marry me?" Sophia's hands flew to her mouth as tears spilled down her cheeks. She had hoped this moment would come, but she hadn't expected it to feel so overwhelmingly perfect. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, of course I'll marry you." As Ryan slipped the ring onto her finger, Gloria threw herself into both their arms, creating a three-way hug that felt like the most natural thing in the world. "Does this mean Sophia will be my real mommy now?" Gloria asked. "She's already your real mommy in every way that matters," Ryan said softly. "But yes, after we get married, she'll officially be part of our family forever." "Good," Gloria said with satisfaction. "I've been waiting for this for a long time." The Christmas party was held in the grand ballroom where they had attended the gala months earlier. As Sophia walked in on Ryan's arm, her engagement ring sparkling under the chandeliers, she marveled at how different she felt from that terrified woman who had pretended to be his girlfriend. This time she belonged here. She was part of Ryan's world not because she was acting a role, but because she had earned her place through love, hard work, and determination. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ryan said when the time came for his annual holiday speech, "I want to thank you all for another successful year. Mitchell Industries continues to grow and thrive because of your dedication and hard work." He paused, his eyes finding Sophia in the crowd. "This year has been special for me personally as well. Many of you have met my fiancée, Sophia, who recently joined our team as Director of Community Relations. She's brought new energy and perspective to our company, just as she's brought new joy to my life and my daughter's life." The applause was warm and genuine. Sophia had worked hard over the past few months to build relationships with Ryan's employees and colleagues, and she felt accepted as part of the Mitchell Industries family. "I'd also like to make an announcement," Ryan continued. "As part of our continued growth, we're establishing the Jennifer Mitchell Foundation for Children's Education, named after my late wife. Sophia will be heading this initiative, working to provide educational opportunities for underprivileged children in our community. More applause filled the room and Sophia felt tears prick her eyes. Ryan had never mentioned this foundation before, but she knew how meaningful it would be to honor Jennifer's memory while helping children who needed support. As the evening wound down, Wellington approached them with a warm smile. "Congratulations on your engagement," he said, shaking Ryan's hand and kissing Sophia's cheek. "I have to say, this is exactly what I hoped would happen when I first met you two." "What do you mean?" Sophia asked. "My dear, it was obvious to anyone with eyes that you two were deeply in love. The way you looked at each other, the way you moved together, it was clear that this was no casual relationship." Sophia and Ryan exchanged a glance, amused by Wellington's certainty about their feelings even when they had been pretending. "Sometimes the best business decisions lead to the best personal outcomes," Wellington continued. "You've built something beautiful together, both professionally and personally." As they drove home that night, Gloria fast asleep in the back seat, Sophia reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. "Do you ever think about how this all started?" she asked Ryan. "You mean with you eavesdropping on my phone call?" "I prefer to think of it as being in the right place at the right time." Ryan laughed. "It's funny how what seemed like the worst possible thing, you overhearing that conversation, turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to us. Do you really think we would have found our way to each other without that push?" "I'd like to think so. I was already falling for you, remember? Maybe it would have taken longer, maybe it would have been messier, but I believe we were meant to be together. I love you, Ryan Mitchell." "I love you too, soon to be Mrs. Mitchell." 6 months later, they were married in a small ceremony in the garden of their new house, a warm, family-friendly home where Gloria could run and play, and where they planned to raise the children they hoped to have together. Sophia's mother, now fully recovered from her cancer treatment, walked her daughter down the aisle. Gloria served as maid of honor, wearing a dress that perfectly matched Sophia's simple but elegant gown. As they exchanged vows, promising to love and cherish each other for the rest of their lives, Sophia thought about all the risks they had taken to get to this moment. The fake relationship that had become real, the leap of faith they had taken in trusting their hearts, the decision to blend their lives despite all the complications. "You may kiss the bride," the minister said, and as Ryan's lips met hers, Sophia felt the last piece of her new life click into place. They were no longer pretending to be in love, they were living it, breathing it, building a future on the foundation of the deepest, truest love either of them had ever known. The little girl who had once drawn her father as a superhero now had a complete family. The nanny who had worried about overstepping boundaries was now the lady of the house. The CEO who had thought he was done with love had found his soulmate in the most unexpected place. As they danced their first dance as husband and wife, surrounded by family and friends, Sophia whispered in Ryan's ear, "Thank you for taking a chance on us." "Thank you for being worth the risk," he whispered back. And in that moment, Sophia knew that some of the best love stories began with the worst possible circumstances, that sometimes you had to fake it until you made it, and that the most beautiful endings were really just the beginning of something even more wonderful. They had started with a lie and found their truth. They had started with desperation and found their salvation. They had started as strangers and found their forever. It was, Sophia thought as Ryan spun her around the dance floor while Gloria giggled from the sidelines, the perfect beginning to their happily ever after.